You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app, and you may not be a nerd like me. You may not be a huge movie fan like me. But if you follow the news in a general sense, today was a big news day in entertainment. Marvel Studios, in a really cool way, had a drip release of all the A-list actors, and I do mean A-list actors, who are attached to the Avengers Doomsday movie, which is going to come out May 1st of 2026. And you don't have to know all the specifics or all the background on the movie. But they had an announcement, correct me if I'm wrong, so like every 10 to 15 minutes.
Yep, every 10 to 15 minutes over the course of about 5 hours. No joke. Every 10 minutes, they'd have a sounder, which would get you excited, and they would add a new chair to an ever-expanding row of A-list actors' chairs.
The cast announced for this movie, which also is going to have Robert Downey Jr. returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not as Tony Stark, but as Doctor Doom, which was announced at Comic-Con last July. First, it was announced, I don't know if this is the correct order, but I'll just list the names. Chris Hemsworth.
Yes, he was first.
Okay, as Thor. Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Anthony Mackie, Captain America. Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier. Paul Rudd, of course, Ant-Man. Letitia Wright, Shuri from Black Panther. Wyatt Russell, the son of Kurt Russell. He will be featured in the upcoming Thunderbolts movie as U.S. agent. Simu Liu, star of Shang-Chi. Florence Pugh, Yelena Belova. She was introduced in the Black Widow movie, and she'll also be in Thunderbolts. Danny Ramirez as the Falcon. He was prominently featured in Captain America Brave New World. And Winston Duke, obviously M'Baku from Black Panther. Oh, but it's more than that. They're actually blending the MCU, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, meaning Marvel Productions, that particular producing team and production house. They're combining it with what was originally the Fox Marvel movies. I'm talking about X-Men with Halle Berry and Ian McKellen and James Marsden. Those original Fox Marvel movies dating back to the original in 2000. So they're combining those universes, those groups of actors. And in that group, they have Patrick Stewart, who's going to be reprising his role as Professor X. Ian McKellen, Magneto. James Marsden, Cyclops. Rebecca Romijn, Mystique. And they'll also be joined by Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. Kelsey Grammer is back as Beast. Now, we don't know whether these are large roles or cameos or brief appearances, but this is what I surmise. Since they're actually announcing them, their scenes have already been cut for the most part. They had to have already done it, and the movie's like pretty much done. And they'll maybe have some screenings between now and then, but the movie's got to be pretty much done.
It's well into production, has been since Robert Downey Jr. made that crowd-shattering announcement that he is returning as Dr. Doom, arguably the most powerful villain that Marvel Comics has ever released. Right now, Dr. Doom has control over almost all of Marvel Comics in the current iteration, in which he has become the Sorcerer Supreme and so forth and so on.
Their eyes are glazing over. They don't
okay, but still, it's not just the X-Men. They are also bringing in the Fantastic Four, which will be introduced this summer as well, because Pedro Pascal and the rest will be coming on. And you have Tenoch Huerta, who played Namor in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It was just a who's who of, oh my godness.
It's about every star from every Marvel movie, for the most part, for the past 17 years. No, excuse me, 25 years if you include the Fox universe.
Yes.
Which means this is going to be, it will be a disappointment if it didn't make $2 billion.
Off the top, this cast alone commands $2 billion. You know, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss, Barrett, Ebon Moss, and Joseph Quinn. That rounds out the Fantastic Four. And as you mentioned, all of the Thunderbolts will be coming in alongside Wyatt Russell. And you have Lewis Pullman, who plays Bob, aka the Sentry. David Harbour's Red Guardian is going to be in it. Hannah John Kaman as Ghost. This film has almost every. And look at this. Okay, look at this. Okay, I'm super hyped. Okay. This is just the people that were announced. This doesn't count all of the glorious Easter eggs and people that we don't even know could be coming into this.
We have to assume that there will be some other unlisted cameos in addition to the confirmed actors and actresses in this. Again, you don't need to know all the history of the characters. Just look at it from a movie cinematic event perspective. They're obviously throwing everything and the kitchen sink at this.
Literally, yes.
Because the biggest Marvel movie of all time was the previous Avengers movies. It was a two-part. It was Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. This is going to be done in the same way, where you'll have Doomsday, and then a year later they'll have Secret Wars, which is basically a sequel to Avengers Doomsday.
Yes. And that film by itself lends to even more people being cast. We already know that both Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Holland could not be in Doomsday because their films, Doctor Strange 3 and Spider-Man 5, both of those will be coming out around the time of this, which leads to them ultimately taking part in this film. My onlyest worry, and this is a serious concern, is the Russo brothers' involvement. And prior to, all things having to do with Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, that wouldn't have been an issue because they brought those two films to light and they were phenomenal. But they're also responsible for Electric State, and that is quite possibly one of the worst films ever.
But Kevin Feige has already made it clear that he's going to be closely attached and watching over the production of these movies. I trust Kevin Feige. This is not a pet project of the Russo brothers where they have full creative control and can do whatever they want. I trust Kevin Feige. He knows how to get it done. I'm fine with this. I'm fine. They have all the principal actors.
We both saw Electric State, man.
Yeah,
we both saw it.
And Kevin Feige wasn't attached to that. Marvel was not attached to that. The same quality controls were not associated with that. I'm not worried at all.
Okay, because that film really hurt my soul.
It did, but I think that's less about the directors and more about not having creative control. They had way too much creative control. They would not be able to make some of those same decisions in a Marvel movie.
No, never. So it's almost like they're automatons. They're like puppets, and he's just guided. He said, "Look, you all know how to work the cameras." And yell cut in a way that I don't really feel the need to. So I'll sit back here in the third director's chair.
Right.
And just oversee what you're doing. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Woo.
I feel comfortable with it. I feel real comfortable with it. What about you, Mark? Are you good with it?
I'm concerned for how they sell Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom after we already know him as Tony Stark and Iron Man. I mean, I'm sure they have a plan in place. I don't know if I would have made that choice.
I agree. Put it this way. I wouldn't have announced it. If you were going to do it, I would have held it back. Obviously, we're dealing with multiverse stuff, so it will work itself out as far as the backstory. But that type of announcement would have been better served for me if they could have held it back and just been on screen, and all of a sudden you realize Dr. Doom is Robert Downey Jr.
They did such a magnificent job with him in the previous movies, and the way he went out in Avengers Endgame was so powerful. This cheapens it to me.
Yeah, except, Mark, now you act as if we're going to see Robert Downey Jr.'s face, which we're not.
Well, then why hire him if you're not?
Because he is an actor and he will be in costume. That is why. We never saw James Earl Jones walking around in the Vader suit. We just knew it was his voice.
Well, if you're going to play the Vader card, I withdraw.
I'm just saying, like that's what we're talking about. It could basically just be him doing the voice work because he's a great actor. This is not a film where we see Robert Downey Jr. prancing around in a green suit and all of a sudden he's like, where's my mask? No, come on, Mark.
Okay.
You know better.
All right, well, then why not just bring back Captain America while you're at it? I don't know.
Wait. That is an open.
Okay.
That's an open question as far as Chris Evans and the Captain America character, because even in Captain America: Brave New World, there were some allusions to Chris Evans, Captain America, still being around somewhere.
Yep.
That's an open question.
I think one reason people get so impatient and sick of superhero movies is stuff like this where nothing really counts. You have something that makes a big impact and then you just take it back later on. I don't like that.
What are you talking about?
He all he did was put the shield down. He got old.
Okay.
He didn't.
We can table this for now. I have some misgivings is all
That's
I'm
all
saying.
right.
Including, by the way, bringing back that lame-ass Namor character. That was one instance of Marvel really fumbling the ball.
Okay. Bob.
You're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong.
You know why they? You know how he got in the movies?
Look at the time.
No,
We gotta go.
No,
We
wait,
gotta go.
no. You got to hear this.
No,
You
we
got to
don't.
hear this. In the movies, he's called Namor because no one loves him. No amor, namor. Yeah, nice work.
That's a gross interpretation of what he said, but go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Rewatch the film so you can say, "Oh, I had that backwards."
You rewatch the film.
Yeah, can I go to break now? Can I go to commercial?
I wish you would.
KFI AM 640. We have an Alec Baldwin update. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And again, Alec Baldwin has not been canceled. Has his career been diminished? I don't know. He was already at the latter portion of his career. It wasn't like he was 25, 30 years old at the height of his stardom. But Alec Baldwin, I could make an argument, is better off today than he was 5 years ago, given the advent of his family reality television show. Given somehow, some way, this Rust movie is coming out. I never really thought this movie would ever be released after the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. I just didn't think it was going to happen. I do know that there is some agreement in place as far as part of the settlement where the Hutchins family will receive a portion of the profit. So there is a monetary incentive to put out this movie. But I don't remember them spending a lot of money on it. I know it's relatively low budget. Alec Baldwin is one of the principal producers. And they dropped the trailer today. And I was looking at it. It doesn't look bad as far as trailers go. It didn't look low budget. It looked like a bona fide, genuine Western, which fits in the genre. That's what it looked like. I can't speak for the movie. Am I actually going to watch the movie? Probably not. I don't really have any desire to see it, but someone will.
Does it? I don't know. For me, it kind of came off disrespectful that they even just continued with this project, considering what happened, because, you know, I get that part of it, unfortunately, did promote the movie, but it's like, why even continue with that project with what it has attached to it?
I have to look it up. I'm pretty sure I agree with you. Intellectually, I agree with you, but I think it has something to do with the settlement, the civil settlement with the Hutchins family, where they asked for them to finish the film and also they would get a portion of the proceeds as part of the settlement. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I'm close to that. We can look it up. We can find it. But I think that's the only real reason that there was a push for this film to be finished, not for Alec Baldwin's sake, but for the family's sake of Helena Hutchins. But here is the trailer, and we'll look it up while we're listening.
The only order that exists in this world is the order we impose. If a man loses sight of that, he's got nothing.
God bless the wicked. They continue to pay my bills. Some things in this life you can't get back, I reckon.
And ain't waiting on neither one of us.
Wannabe Clint Eastwood, kind of typical one-liners, Western. It doesn't look like there's anything that we'll see in this movie which is different from any other Western which has come before it. But Twala, you were looking it up, and the settlement was connected to the completion of the movie.
Yes. The Hutchins family, with the decision with the husband of Helena Hutchins, was mandated that this film be completed. It's part of the settlement agreement.
Okay, so there is a financial incentive for the Hutchins family to complete the movie. They'll get a percentage of something that was in the settlement that probably, in fact, I know that was not made public as far as the specifics of the settlement, but there you have it. That's why, Stefan, the movie was finished. I'm surprised they did. It's not uncommon for someone to die during the production of a movie and the movie still be released. I think of like The Crow or did Heath Ledger make it to the release of Batman? No, he didn't.
He passed away.
Yeah.
Too.
So, I mean, it's not super unusual.
I guess it was just more because of the fact that, well, all the evidence that, maybe Alec caused it, allegedly. And that's what I think is kind of like a little bit weird.
No, it feels dirty.
Yeah.
It feels dirty.
Yeah.
I can't quite put my finger on, can't express why. It doesn't feel right. If I didn't hear explicitly that the family asked for it to be finished and they would not also get something out of it, I would say, hell no, you can't release the movie. It's almost like you're proverbially trampling on the grave of Helena Hutchins, and it doesn't feel right. But if I keep coming back to, well, if the family's okay with it.
Well, and it's by family. Again, this is as part of the settlement. Hutchins' husband, Matthew Hutchins, was made an executive producer of the film so that he and the family could benefit financially. So instead of a financial settlement, like, say, suing to get money, now they're getting all the money from the film's release. Which, is that going to be any money?
We'll find out very soon. When we come back, I'll be joined on the show by John Irwin and John Gunn. We're going to talk about House of David, which is right now streaming on Amazon Prime, talking about the story of David and Goliath. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
David's heart is like a deep fire, set strong, unbroken.
It is the very reason he was chosen.
I want a place with the king's warriors.
David, you are a poet, and you are a shepherd. You are not a man of glass.
I was meant for more than this.
The king's a Philistine. We shall ride against Saul. But our gods and nightmares will go before us.
David, you have the heart of a lion. What do lions do? They roar. Stand be our champion!
Goliath!
Now streaming on Amazon Prime Video is House of David, the epic action-packed retelling of the famous biblical story of David and Goliath. Across 8 episodes, House of David tells the story of young David and his journey to eventually fulfill his destiny, taking on the giant Goliath, of course. In fact, episode 7 drops tomorrow. Filmmaker John Irwin is the series creator, and John Gunn is the director of House of David, and they both joined me on the show. John and John, good evening. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Two Johns are better than one in the case of this show. So thanks for having us, man.
Absolutely. Spelled the same way. John Irwin, what motivates you to tell a well-known biblical story that is a centerpiece of the Old Testament? And how do you go about dramatizing something that so many people are familiar with?
Well, I think if something's meaningful and entertaining to you, you just have to trust that, that it will be to other people as well. And for me, I began to really be fascinated by David, at age 16. I traveled to Israel with my dad and with my first camera. and went to some of these ancient sites, and I was just awestruck by the legacy and legend of this person. I went to the Tomb of David, and I've wanted to tell a story ever since. And it's just an epic story in every way, but it's also in many ways the origin, or at least one of them, of the hero's journey stories. So all these stories that we love, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, in many ways they have their roots in the story of David or stories like David, and about this original, ascent of this boy chosen to be king. And so it's everything you could ever wish for as a filmmaker. And yet the story is deeply meaningful to billions of people around the world, and I'm one of them. So it's really is a dream come true.
And even though it is a very well-known story, and even though just about everyone's heard the words David and Goliath, there's so much to the story that most people don't know. And so it's been a real opportunity for us to take what is 3 chapters of the Bible in 1 Samuel and turn it into 8 hours of content for season 1 of House of David. And there's 8 hours more to come in season 2 and hopefully beyond. So there's a lot of opportunity to learn much, much more about King David than you might know even if you're familiar with David and Goliath. But David and Goliath is pretty epic, and the finale starts airing tomorrow on Amazon Prime.
John Gunn, since I hear your voice as you jumped in, how and when did House of David come to you, and what was your thought process in transferring this written story to the screen?
Well, it actually, John Irwin and I have been collaborating on many projects over the last 5 or 6 years. We've written and produced a lot of films together, some of which he directed, some of which I directed. And this was a project that Irwin has been dreaming of for many years. And so when we got the opportunity through our partnership with Amazon to make this show, he sort of called me and said, look, how do you feel about partnering up on this? And to me, it was such a great opportunity to bring some specificity and voice of our own into a story that's as epic as and sort of known throughout the world as the story of David. So as a filmmaker, I was thrilled to get the chance to do a David and Goliath story. I mean, it's such a great challenge, and it's a story that when I imagine in my mind how are we going to do David and Goliath, that challenge was really exciting to me.
John Irwin, for those who don't know, we can't assume everybody knows the baseline of David and Goliath. So just tell us, who is David, who will eventually become King David, and who is the prophet Samuel as just people at this time in biblical history?
Well, I mean, David is this obscure, outcast kid, hidden away from his family and his town. Samuel is this great prophet and seer that ruled Israel for 40 years before Israel had a king, and sort of was the messenger of the voice of God, and anointed Israel's first king in Saul. And their relationship is fractured and frayed as Saul has gotten sort of obsessed with himself and his power. And so Samuel, is beckoned by God to go anoint a new king in a nation that already has one. That's not a good thing, And he finds this boy, David, and anoints him as king in a nation that already has a king. And so these houses of the house of David and the house of Saul are instantly pitted against one another. And David has this secret that if he's found out, he and his whole family will be killed. Simultaneously, he ends up slaying this giant and comforting the king with his music and falling in love with the king's daughter, all while carrying the secret that he is indeed anointed to replace this person that becomes like a father to him. And so it's a very complex, wonderfully complex story. And as you really dramatize the story that's in the Bible, it's amazing how great it is. There's a reason that this book is the best-selling book of all time, and has inspired people for generations. And David is really that first hero's journey, and it's amazing to tell that story.
John Gunn, I know that a lot of this depicts Mesopotamia, of Middle East now in a time in which probably looked very different from what we thought of it. How did you go about trying to create this visual scenery which depicted that time in the Bible?
Well, that was one of the great opportunities of the show, is just to create a very specific world, a version of ancient Israel that people haven't seen. We're shooting it in Greece, which just has epic landscapes that, again, not a lot of people have seen, haven't been photographed, the parts of Greece that we're shooting very often. So, we did a whole lot of research. We've got a really talented team, production designers and wardrobe departments and hair and makeup. And so when you put all that together and then really root it all in characters that we've come to love, that we want to share in all their complexity, it creates a world that's really unique and really specific. And I think it's going to be something unlike what people have seen before, and a version of David that I think John and I both felt we'd never seen a David and Goliath that felt really cinematic and compelling. And so it's a great honor to be able to tell a version of that story that I think people are really going to love.
John Irwin, episode 7 drops tomorrow. It's part 1 of the 2-part season finale of House of David. Yeah, we may know exactly what's about to happen, but we may not know how it's going to happen. How would you set the stage for episode 7 and then episode 8 following after that?
Well, I mean, everyone that knows how it ends wants to know how it ends. You know, it's finally here, David and Goliath in this 2-part finale. And it really is a dream come true. It's my favorite thing that I've ever been involved with as a filmmaker is the conclusion of House of David. As a fan of the Bible itself and of David, I had never really seen a version of David and Goliath, the way I had dreamed. And I'm just so grateful to be able to, put it on the screen. And it's really, really beautiful. And I'm so proud of it. So tomorrow night is part 1, followed next week by part 2, and it's this 2-hour conclusion to season 1, and it's a grand finale in every sense of the word.
John Gunn, last word to you. What should we expect beyond tomorrow night next week and also into season 2?
Well, the great thing about season 1 of House of David is it's an epic story that ends with a famous epic confrontation with Goliath. But really all of that season is just the setup to a much, much larger story as David rises into his destiny and starts to realize that there is a price to pay for destiny. And so season 2 is bigger and more epic than season 1. And we are filming it right now and can't wait for people to see it.
Now streaming on Amazon Prime Video is House of David. Episode 7, as you heard, drops tomorrow. John Irwin and John Gunn, congratulations, and thank you for coming on tonight. We'll be watching.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can't wait for you to see it.
It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
It's hard to believe. It's really hard to believe that Snoop Dogg has been on the entertainment scene for almost 34 years. It's hard to believe he's had that much of a career, that much of an impact, that much of a presence in entertainment for so long. And I get it, especially when I was working in the music business. A lot of people were trying to become a rapper or trying to become a singer as a stepstone to do something else. You can think of all the rappers who become actors, from Ice Cube to Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, LL Cool J, and they'll tell you rapping was a thing, but it wasn't the thing for them. It was a stepping stone. It was a way to get from here to there, to move on to the next portion in their career. And no one arguably has done it as well as Snoop Dogg. Now, there might have been other people who've had more success as an actor than Snoop Dogg. He's done acting. He's been in movies. He's done TV. But I don't know if there has been a rapper who has had such a diverse and wide, varied career and such tremendous success in a number of different avenues. You could talk about Snoop Dogg as the rapper. You could talk about Snoop Dogg as the actor, like you see him in Training Day and other movies. You can talk about Snoop Dogg as the television host working alongside Martha Stewart. You can talk about his work in the community with Long Beach and his football leagues. He's done so many things. Oh, his commentary in the Olympics, during the Olympics. He's done so many things, and I've said on a number of occasions, I'm in awe of what he's managed to do and also how much he's been able to grow and reinvent himself. The latest example of that, he's been asked to speak at USC Marshall's 2025 commencement. And if you don't know, it's this Marshall School of Business. Quote, this is what Snoop had to say, quote, "I am deeply honored to join USC Marshall's commencement in celebrating the remarkable achievements of these graduates. Commencement is not just a milestone, it's a launching point. It's about stepping into your purpose, applying what you've learned, and making an impact that matters. I look forward to welcoming them into the next chapter of their journey as leaders, innovators, and change makers. But to my point about how much Snoop has done, he's released 21 studio albums, won 16 Grammy Awards, appeared in numerous films and television shows, and last year started his own beverage company, co-launched with Dr. Dre, called Gin and Juice, appropriately titled. Snoop Dogg was recognized for his business endeavors, receiving the USC Lloyd Grief Center Entrepreneur of the Year Award, given to celebrate entrepreneurial excellence. And from what I read and what I understand, USC is digging this. And I posed the question. It was half-hearted. I think I understood why, and I think I understood how he would be received. But I was posing the questions like, how would you respond if you spent all this money and then Snoop Dogg is your commencement speaker? I've never heard him speak long form in terms of like addressing a crowd or giving a speech at a formal event. I know that he can be funny off the cuff. I know he's lived an amazing life and had an amazing career. I'm quite sure he has all sorts of jewels to drop for these young folks. And I was kidding with Tuala, but I really wasn't kidding. I sure hope he doesn't crip walk across the stage. I hope he doesn't. And let me just do this real quick. Since I have a USC graduate who's in the studio right now, Tiffany Hobbs, you're a USC alum. You probably feel some sort of way or a kind of way about this. Where do you fall in this?
You know, withholding my own personal feelings about Snoop, given his recent commentary, some of the things that he's been embroiled in the years.
That's real.
Because there are quite a few things that are problematic about Snoop Dogg. Aside from his political stance, his history is complicated, but I can understand using him as a commencement speaker. This crop of students is really invested, as are their peers, this generation, in social media, in stardom, in popularity. And who better than to represent all three than someone who is a pop culture icon like Snoop, who's from the community, who has been present at the USC games in every way. He's an avid.
While you were there.
While I was there as well, he would be there on campus practicing with the football team, as would Will Ferrell. We had quite a few celebrities who would come back, alums as well. And Snoop was one of them. He's been a fan of USC for a long time. And so it's funny that it's taken this long to get him into a speaker position, but I think Snoop has shown his ability to be on that main stage, on that larger stage with the Olympics, as you spoke of. And so what better way than to test his oratorical skills now than to put him as the commencement speaker? I think he'll do great. I think he'll have a good time with, and I think the students will enjoy it as well.
Well said. I'll let you have the last word on that. Yeah, you need to get a better football team.
Fight on. Sure. I know. And prayers up to Juju.
Prayers for Juju.
Oh.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Whether you love us, hate us, or haven't made up your mind, we're glad you're here.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere.